Yes, today we are talking about the Saw movies. Not one in particular because the way I view Saw is the way I viewed Saw, the way I watched them was I watched them all pretty much back to back to back, so a lot of this blends together, and it's really hard for me to go, I'm just going to pick one Saw movie and talk about it. So instead, I'm just going to talk about the whole franchise as a whole. Spiral came out this past weekend, and I thought it was a good opportunity to just talk about this kind of controversial, kind of laughed-off horror franchise, and just kind of dive into the overall story progression, kind of the ideologies and psychology kind of at play here. But first, as we have set forth in episode 10 or 9, I don't remember which one, we are going to start off the episode by first talking about, that was supposed to be a drum roll, the movie news this week. Let's get it.
This week in movie news, brought to you by a moment of silence for the Golden Globes. Alright, that's good enough. The Golden Globes have been cancelled. NBC has decided not to hold the Golden Globes next year due to a lack of diversity amongst the Hollywood Foreign Press Association brought to light by people like actress Scarlett Johansson. The HFPA came out with an apology and a promise to do better, right before calling out every other Hollywood association for not only knowing about the lack of diversity, but not being diverse themselves. Who would have thunk? Knives Out 2 is currently stacking its cast. Joining Daniel Craig in the sequel to Rian Johnson's mystery comedy will be the master of invisibility himself, David Bautista, forgotten Hulk actor Edward Norton, singer-songwriter Janelle Monáe, and Bad Mom Catherine Hahn. Knives Out 2 will be coming out on Netflix next year. The CW, the network famous for taking fun, colorful characters and making them needlessly edgy and adult, has announced that they will be reviving the Nickelodeon classic competition show, Legends of the Hidden Temple, and of course, this series will be for adults. After 19 seasons, the Ellen DeGeneres Show will be ending. After a myriad of recent controversies, the highly influential and popular show will be coming to an end, and I don't care, let's move on. In other more saddening cancellation news, hit NBC drama This Is Us will be ending after its 6th season. While I've never heard of it, I've heard that it is good. People really like this show, and while it may come as a surprise to some, the creative team has stated that they wanted to end it after its 6th season anyways. Well, Disney's back in the news this week, this time surrounding China. China has omitted Marvel movies, The Eternals and Shang-Chi, from its box office release schedule. The reason that has been stated for Shang-Chi's omission revolves around its antagonist, the Mandarin, who bears too much similarity to the controversial fictional character Fu Manchu. While the Eternals omission has to do with China's beef with the film's director, Chloe Zhao, who has made statements about the government's various and many lies. Speaking of Oscar award-winning directors, Bong Joon-ho, director of 2019's Parasite, will be gearing up to direct his first animated feature with Korean VFX production house Fourth Creativity Party, which will be a deep-sea adventure. Also, the Friends cast will be reuniting later this month for a Friends reunion special that will air on HBO Max on May 27th. Finally, check out these first look images from Kevin Smith's Master of the Universe reboot, which will come out on Netflix July 23rd. Also, check out these new first look images and movie poster for the new G.I. Joe movie Snake Eyes, which will be coming to theaters July 23rd, starring Henry Golding. Snake Eyes will also be having a trailer released 2 days after recording this, but a day before the episode is released, so go check that out if you haven't. And that has been This Week in Movie News.
Alright, I hope you all enjoyed that one. This one was very jam-packed with news this week, but not a lot of fun controversial stuff, unfortunately. I I have some thoughts on it, so let's just kind of, the main news piece this past week is the Golden Globes has been canceled. It's not coming back for 2022 awards season, which I guess is unfortunate if you're super big into the awards season, because besides the Oscars, the Golden Globes is like the biggest award show for movies and film and cinema, or whatever word you want to use for the moving pictures, you know? I never really paid attention, nor did I watch the Golden Globes ever, so it's not that big a deal to me. I just find it funny that they pretty much got canceled because there was a lack of diversity amongst the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which I think kind of puts on the Golden Globes. And I find it funny that they came out and apologized for it and pretty much said, but you all knew about it. You had, I think Tom Cruise was saying, I'm just going to return all these statues. I don't need them anymore because we're going to try to make the Golden Globes good again. And Mark Ruffalo was putting hashtags out on Twitter, and pretty much what the Hollywood Foreign Press just goes, hey guys, you do realize you knew about this back when you were accepting these awards. You guys knew about this when you were taking our money for winning. And yeah, this story is just kind of the peak example of a lot of these people just talk. Uh, a lot of people up in these higher echelons of Hollywood just talk and talk and talk and don't really walk the walk. They will spout off about diversity or this moral grandstand, but behind closed doors they either don't care or don't practice it or both. And uh, it's just kind of funny whenever one group of people or a person has to fall on the sword for the entirety of Hollywood, and everyone piles onto them, and then they decide to fight back and just say, hold on a second. You guys all knew about this. What are you talking about? It's a beautifully fantastic crap show. But yeah, the Knives Out 2 cast information, I mean, they kept announcing actors all week, and it's just like each announcement just got more and more hype. Dave Bautista, love him. Everything he's in, I think he's really good in. He's showing his acting chops with more dramatic roles. He's so funny as a comedic actor. I mean, Edward Norton, really good actor. Fight Club. Even The Incredible Hulk he was good in. Primal Fear, if you haven't seen that, I haven't seen it, but that's like his Hallmark movie that kind of pushed him to the mainstream. Janelle Monáe, I haven't really seen anything from her. I know she's like a very popular singer-songwriter, so good for her. Catherine Hahn, most people know as from WandaVision. I haven't seen WandaVision, but she shows up in Parks and Rec as a recurring character. She's been in other shows and movies, so she gets around. But I'm excited. Knives Out, first one, really good movie. Excited for the second one. The CW is making the Legends of the Hidden Temple. I wasn't a Nickelodeon kid growing up, so this isn't. I'm not as upset about this as probably some people will be, because I think it's like Survivor, or not Survivor, but it's like one of those game shows that they did with kids, and now the CW is just like, and we're gonna make it with adults. And I think the way I made it sound in the segment was they were gonna try to make it edgy, but I think they're just gonna have adult contestants rather than kid contestants play it, and it'll probably be a bit racier. But I mean, the CW just does this. They're doing it with the Powerpuff Girls about to. They're doing it with Riverdale and most of the DC stuff. I mean, they did it with Green Arrow. I liked Arrow, but they did it with Green Arrow. Green Arrow's kind of a fun, bright, colorful superhero, and then they make him super edgy with very dark, muted green costume. The Powerpuff Girls show they're gonna do. It's not about the Powerpuff Girls. It's about them as 20-somethings, completely lost, and I think the professor is going to be a drunk. Professor Utonium's going to be a drunk. Riverdale. I mean, they take fun art. They take the fun Archie comics, the band the Archie made. The sugar sugar do 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 honey honey da dum bow 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 bow. They take something that's happy go lucky bubblegum pop feel, uh, that makes you feel all warm inside, and they made it a super edgy romantic drama where the snarky Jughead is now super edgy film lover in charge of a gang, and Archie has to go to jail and fight people and kill people and starts a gang, and Veronica is going head to head with her drug overlord father, her crime lord father, and Betty's father is a mass murderer, and her brother is also a psychopath, and her mom joins a cult. All on There's a scene where she has to strip in front of a bunch of men, and these are all high schoolers. Like they took the needless edginess up to a 10, and it's not really adult. It's just very suggestive and very just edgy, like 12-year-old edgelord stuff. So this isn't new for the CW, and I don't doubt that they would make it something like that. That being said, I'm not that excited about this. I just thought it was fun, interesting news. Ellen DeGeneres show's ending. Never watched it. Didn't really care for daytime talk television. Don't care for late night television either. It's just Ellen has been going through the ringer in the news for as of late, and some people have turned on her. Some people are trying to be understanding. From what I saw, she just seemed to be a general douchebag to people and didn't treat people well when they were on her show, which is messed up. But let's be honest, she's not the only one in Hollywood. It's only a matter of time that someone else gets called out. I mean, the Joss Whedon scandal, for goodness sakes, a couple weeks back. Someone came out and was like, oh, well, he said mean, hurtful things to me. And I'm like, yeah, doesn't every director? I'm sure almost every director out there has said something that pissed one of the actors off or hurt the actor's feelings. That doesn't mean like I think he's a good dude. I just, oh no, another Hollywood person's a douchebag and an a-hole. Colored me shocked. That's kind of how I just feel about that. This Is Us is ending. I said I hadn't heard of it in the clip. Um, I meant to say I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. It's one of those shows that has been on my radar. I know a couple people who've seen it who really like it. I really love the cast. You have, I think, Chris Sullivan, who was Taserface in Guardians 2, and he was the chef at the beginning of Stranger Things. Josh Hall, no, what's his name? Justin Hawley, I think. I don't know. He played Green Arrow in Smallville. I like him. And then obviously Sterling K. Brown, who is a fantastic actor who needs more work. First saw him on Person of Interest. He's in the A24 movie Waves. But he's been in some really good stuff. He was Killmonger's dad in Black Panther. All really good roles, all really good performances from him. And I want to see the show now, especially since it's ending. I want to just be able to sit down and enjoy the whole thing. Then Bong Joon-ho, I'm watching more of his movies. I'm becoming a massive fan of him. Mother, Barking Dogs Never Bite, The Host, Snowpiercer, and then 2 years ago, Parasite. All of them are excellent movies. He knows what he's doing. I'm excited to see what he does with an animated movie. Um, Not excited for Friends. Watched a couple episodes when I was growing up. Did not like it. I think it's a very overrated sitcom. Maybe if I go back now and watch it, it'll change my mind. But this just seems they're just milking that Friends cow, you know. The first looks of Masters of the Universe and the Snake Eyes movie, both of those look awesome. I'm kind of excited for both of them. I can't wait. I liked Henry Golding, guy who will be playing Snake Eyes in the new movie. He was in The Gentleman. Really good performance there. I think he can play this kind of this killer role well. I purposely skipped over the Disney news. This is kind of the big thing, and this is the one I'm gonna talk a little bit more about and develop my feelings on. This is the big story of the week. The rest of them are just kind of fun, small pie stories. China has omitted The Eternals and Shang-Chi from its release schedule. Uh, Last I checked, I think right now it's still kind of in limbo whether or not they'll be released there. But I find it funny that that there have been people who have been harping on Disney's need to constantly bend the knee, constantly try to go out of its way to appeal in such just lazy fashions to the Chinese box office market, and I guess specifically to the the Chinese government that that monitors every movie that's coming into their theaters, and if they don't like it, if it doesn't say what they want it to say, they kick it out. I mean, we've had people harping on this from the beginning. I used to do a YouTube channel way back when I was like 18, 17 or 18 that I kind of gave up on, but I made a video where I was ranting about just like why does Hollywood have this need to just force random movies to take place in China even though it serves no purpose. They go out of their way to go to China just so they can make more money in China. And it was an annoying trend that I noticed when I was young. I wasn't involved in a lot of this as much as I am now. And now Disney's doing it even more blatantly. I mean, all companies are doing it with Kong versus Godzilla that came out, or Godzilla versus Kong that came out 2 months ago. They had Godzilla, literally had Godzilla swim all the way to, I think it was Hong Kong, which China says is theirs, but Hong Kong doesn't. It's a whole situation that I don't have time to get into. But they went out of their way to make sure the final fight took place in Hong Kong, just to get appeal to the Chinese market and soak in those monies. In those instances, it's not that big of a deal. But what Disney does is far worse. I mean, there's been the controversies with Black Panther, and I think it was Force Awakens, the movie posters. The Black Panther movie poster, the American movie poster has Chadwick Boseman's beautiful face on the poster. He's doing like the Wakanda Forever sign. They take that poster and when they send it over to China, they edit on a mask so you can't tell he's black. Because I guess I don't know if it's just the Chinese government or if it's a cultural thing, but the Chinese government does not like black people. So Disney edits their posters. You saw it with Finn with the Force Awakens poster where they have the poster. Finn's a main character. He's prominent on it on every new trilogy poster. But when they ship it over to China, they take that picture of Finn, shrink it all the way down to where you can barely tell he's there, or they get rid of him altogether to appeal to the Chinese censors and the Chinese government so that they can milk the Chinese market for as much as it's worth. Because just about every movie, and I would say every single movie relies on that Chinese box office. That's where the big money's at. China has the biggest population on Earth, and they have I guess a lot of money to spend. I don't know how the economy is there, but a lot of money is spent on movies every week from China, and that's how most movies get their massive gains. It doesn't matter what they do in the U.S. because they know the money's in China. And so they conveniently ignore a lot of what China's doing. I think I said last week or the week before, talked about Disney's controversy with Mulan, where they filmed next to Uyghur Muslim concentration camps, which some people, some tech overlords, they don't like us saying, but that's okay. We're gonna say it anyway. But they do that because they don't care. They just want to get into China's pocket and take the money from China's pocket. So people have been calling Disney out on this for years. At least a year, but I'm going to just go to assume years. And Disney doesn't care because they're making the money. They pretend to care about racial issues. They put out the anti-Asian hate crime stuff while there's also doing stuff that hurts Asian people. They don't care. They're a corporation that makes a buttload of money. The mouse doesn't care. They just do what they want. They will get the social brownie points while they're doing the exact opposite things they claim they care about. And it's kind of funny to see this starting to bite them on the butt. Because Shang-Chi, the Mandarin, has kind of the Fu Manchu mustache and beard. I guess it's more a beard. I guess in the comics. I don't know why they didn't do this with Iron Man 3, because if I remember right, I think Ben Kingsley also had a Fu Manchu-ish beard. He may not have, but it's interesting that that's kind of what gets Shang-Chi. I don't know if you... hold on. Let me look up the Mandarin Shang-Chi. We may have a picture, but as far as I'm aware, we don't even have a first look image. Well, no, we did. He was in the trailer, right? But he didn't even have a mustache, if I remember right. I'm looking at some of these pictures. Yeah, I mean, that he's clean shaven in that. He's clean shaven in that, so I don't even know. It might not be the Fu Manchu mustache thing, but that's what Fu Manchu's most famous for. No one would really be able to tell you who he is, but it doesn't even look like the Mandarin's gonna have the Fu Manchu looking style, but it's because he's in the comics, I guess. But it's kind of funny that that's what's biting them on the butt is an offensive stereotype. Even though they so cling to these modern day, I guess for lack of a better word, woke issues. They cling to this stuff and promote it, and now they're getting China of all people are saying, no, we can't do that because you're doing an offensive stereotype. Even though Disney's sworn them off and has spent the past year or two since Disney Plus has come out trying to like censor or hide or put up warning labels because the Black Crows and Dumbo, I guess I think it's they represent Jim Crow or talk like stereotypical black people. You have the Siamese cats from Lady and the Tramp that they're trying to either censor or put like a warning label in front of that movie. Aristocats with the Chopsticks cat playing the piano. They're busy covering that up, but now they're making a new movie and they're getting kicked in the butt with China for the same stuff. I find that funny. And then the other one, The Eternals, is being omitted because of Chloe Zhao, who hold up, let me look her up. I don't think she was born in China. She might have been. Chloe Zhao. See, this is what happens when you're prepared. Chloe Zhao, Chinese filmmaker. So she is of Chinese descent. Was she born in China? She was born in Beijing. So she grew up in China. She knows what the government is capable of. And I think she did an interview. Yeah, there's literally an entire section on her Wikipedia page that is titled Relationship with China. Like, this is a main part of her status as an artist. China doesn't like this woman because she has called them out on their lies and on the crappy stuff they do. I'm trying to find the exact quote, but I cannot. But that, I mean, she said like China is full of lies. China then takes offense to that, and this was, oh shoot, this is probably like a few years ago maybe. But I mean, when she won the Oscar win, China censored any and all reference. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Any and all reference to this woman and her movie. It says right here, March 5th, 2021, the Chinese government censored mentions of Nomadland online. This entire government is so petty that they're trying to erase this woman's success off the face of the earth. And I mean, I'm glad she got hired to do the Eternals. It looks like she's gonna do a good job, but like, you gotta think, why did Disney hire this woman then? Because they rely so much on the Chinese market, and I don't know if they just like if she was up and coming trendy, so we're gonna hire her. But I mean, good on Chloe for calling out the Chinese government. I don't think not enough people in that circle do it, and most of them try to just you know cover up or compliment the Chinese government on everything. And props to her for calling them out, but it's now hurting the Eternals. So what's Disney gonna do? Are they gonna fire her? Are they gonna get someone to come in and do reshoots? It's kind of worrying about her future with this movie and with the cinema MCU. But it's interesting that despite how hard Disney has tried to be on China's good side, they still slip up, and now we're in this situation. Um, and it might be entirely possible that they don't get enough funding to get sequels for both movies, and that will suck because they rely way too much on the Chinese uh, market and try to appeal to the Chinese government way too much. We need more people like Chloe Zhao calling this kind of crap out. Um, yeah, I, d- I expected a full rant on that, but it's really just simple stuff of the Chinese government is super petty. The Chinese government is super freaking petty. They banned Winnie the Pooh from China. You can't talk about Winnie the Pooh. You can't put pictures of Winnie the Pooh up. You can't even allude to Winnie the Pooh because someone one time on Twitter, I think, just said, "Man, the president, the president of China, if you can call him a president, he looks like Winnie the Pooh." And he did not like that, so he said, "F it, no more Winnie the Pooh in my country." This is the kind of government we're talking about. This is the type of government that Disney's trying to desperately appeal to and constantly bending the knee and covering up and thanking and paying. Not to mention they put Uyghur Muslims into literal concentration camps and I would say arguably are trying to commit genocide on them right now. But that no one in Hollywood's calling out Disney on it, but hardly any of them are calling out China on any of the crap they're doing. So I guess conclusion and moral of that, we need more Chloe Zhao's in Hollywood. Not only is she a great director, I didn't even like Nomadland that much, but she makes some beautiful, beautiful freaking shots. Like I said last week, the Eternals screenshots and first looks, like the shots are beautifully composed. We need more people like her who make genuinely good looking movies and can direct the crap out of stuff, but also willing to kind of call out China because there are too many. I mean, this is with athletes and movie stars who just, oh well, we don't want to offend China. We don't want to say anything bad because we might lose our job. Because I mean, Chloe Zhao still has her job as of now, so there's that. All right. Well, we're almost if not 30 minutes into this episode, which means I suppose it's time to get on to the main topic. Today we are talking about the Saw movies. I think there's 9 of them now. There's Saw 1, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 4, Saw 5, Saw 6, Saw the final chapter, which is Saw 7, Jigsaw 8, Spiral 9. There are 9 Saw movies. Since the first Saw released in 2004, I guess I'm just going to give my general feelings about each of them, but for me, the more interesting aspect of this is just kind of the overall story and the overall mythology, because this franchise is frequently dismissed as being torture porn. And while yes, there's a lot of torture in it, there's a lot of gore. Most of these movies, I found it to be like, it's not that gratuitous, because in my view, the word porn, um, that has a connotation of excess, gratuity. That's why you have, you know, movies where there's just one torture scene. You don't have a movie where there's a CIA agent torturing someone, and there's no one calling that a torture porn movie. There's a reason why there are films out that are rated R that have one scene with nudity, a brief shot with nudity. No one calls that porn because that's not gratuitous. Um, so I guess you could qualify this as torture porn because the entire premise of each movie is people are put into these traps where they are tortured. But because it was called torture porn, going into these movies, I genuinely thought these were going to be super graphic, super strenuous. Like, just you spend 10 minutes on a dude being pierced with a nail and for no reason. But when I got out of it was something a lot more interesting. So first, let me just say what I generally think about each movie. Saw 1 is amazing. I love it. I loved every second of it. It's nice, simple. It has a stacked freaking cast. Everyone from Carrie Elwes, Danny Glover, Ken Leung. I think it's Ken Leung. I'm just gonna say Ken Leung. Michael Emerson. There was someone else in here. Dynamite. Dynamare. Great cast. But it's intense. It's constantly forward motion. We have Dr. Gordon and Adam in this room together for the entire movie. A lot of it is just figuring out who these guys are, why they deserve to be punished by Jigsaw. And everything about that is just done so well. So well. And the ending, I knew the twist going into it, but even knowing the twist, it's just so crazy to see this dead body that's been in the room since the beginning just stand up. And John Kramer, Jigsaw, just walks out of the room while Adam's sitting there screaming, no, no. And you have this Saw theme coming up, which for whatever reason I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but John, that final shot where the lights go out and John Kramer just goes, game over, and closes the door. It's such just a good sequence, and I loved every minute of it. Saw 2, I generally liked. I think some of it doesn't work quite as well, but the parts I loved. We get to spend more time with John Kramer. John Kramer is in the entire movie in this one. I also like the race against the clock as we see the trap house with this group of people, but group of criminals, and you're figuring out why they're in the trap, but also their relation to Donnie Wahlberg's character, Eric Matthews, and figuring out all that. It's so fun. It's such a fun movie, and just the fact that this is kind of the start of Jigsaw just being a level 100 dad joke pun teller, where pretty much Jigsaw at the beginning says, I've kidnapped your son, but don't worry, your son is safe. And then the reveal at the end is that the storyline we're following inside the trap house happened happened like a week or two ago, and what they're watching on the security feeds, the cops are watching on the security feeds, is a playback. And Eric Matthews goes off and gets kidnapped by Jigsaw's apprentice, Amanda, who is the girl from the first scene of Saw. And he's put into a trap where you assume he has died. And it turns out his son was inside a safe right behind Jigsaw the entire time. It's just kind of like, it's a little funny, but it's also kind of tragic. But I mean, I enjoyed a lot of that. It can be a little all over the place, but I mean, it's a solid one for sure. Saw 3. Saw 3 is a completely separate story that I think takes place right after Saw 2. This kind of follows up with Jigsaw is now dying. He's dying of cancer. He's about to die, so he sets out this final test. He brings in a doctor to kind of operate on him while Amanda is trying to run this test with the doctor's husband, whose name is Jeff, played by Angus McFadden. Angus McFadden from Braveheart. So Jeff is kind of going through he has a dead son and he's bent on vengeance. And every trap is he has to figure out if he wants to save this person or if he wants to kill him because they had something to do with his son dying. It's a great little setup. The oh crap! Just kicked my trash can. Sorry. And the entire reveal there is that the whole time Amanda was being tested, John Kramer dies, and Amanda gets jealous of the nurse who is kind of building up a relationship with John Kramer, so she kills the nurse, and then Jeff kills Amanda, and that's kind of where the movie ends, and it doesn't pick up until Saw 5, but in the meantime, or no, Saw 4, right? No, Saw 5. Saw 4 is about Rig from Saw 2, and I'll explain all of this. It's such a convoluted plot. Riggs from Saw 2 trying to track down Detective Allison Carey, who has been in the first 2 Saw movies, who got kidnapped, I think, in Saw 3 and killed. So Rig is kind of trying to save her, and then another police officer, Mark Hoffman, gets kidnapped, and he has to go save him. And, he has to learn his lessons or whatever Jigsaw does. And, by the way, John Kramer's dead from this point on. This isn't like a horror franchise where, oh, well, the main bad guy died, but actually... No. He's dead from this point on. He dies in the 3rd movie, and there's 9 of these. He's been dead for 6 movies, and they're still going with this. But Rig goes after 2 of his colleagues. They're trying to figure out who this new acolyte is since Amanda's dead and Jigsaw's dead. They also reveal that Eric Matthews is actually still alive, so Eric Matthews and Hoffman are on this trap. Rig fails to save him. So Eric Matthews gets his head crushed by a couple blocks of ice. He's dead now, again. Rig gets shot by the mystery acolyte, who turns out to just be another guy playing a Saw game, and he gets shot and dies. And it's revealed that Hoffman was actually the new acolyte all along, but also he was there from the beginning, which we find out in Saw 5. Saw 5 takes place alongside Saw 3. It takes place basically at the same time in like flashbacks where Hoffman is now kind of commended as a hero, and this FBI agent is suspicious of him and investigates into Hoffman and his past, and it's kind of this giant cat and mouse game. Oh, by the way, Saw 4, not good. I didn't like it all that much. Saw 5, I think, is even worse. But Agent Strom, the FBI agent, is investigating him. His partner dies, gets shot in the face. As they try to chase this woman down, there's another Saw plot line with this group of 4 people having to work through this giant array of traps where they eventually like kill all of each other, and there's only 2 of them left, and then they realize, oh, the point of the trap was that we were supposed to work together, and then they get screwed and pretty much die. But yeah, so the entire movie is pretty much just this giant cat and mouse chase where Strom is chasing Hoffman, and uh, Hoffman ends up framing Strom for being the Jigsaw killer, and then he kills Strom. And I think I just mixed up. Like I said, these movies blend together. Saw 4 takes place at the same time as Saw 3 because Strom is introduced in that movie, and he gets pretty much. They show you this what happens immediately after Jeff shoots uh, Amanda, which is pretty much Strom walks in, sees Jeff, and Jeff like flings his gun around like an idiot. Strom shoots him, and then the door closes. Strom gets locked in. So the next Saw 5, Hoffman's like, "Don't follow me, detective. You can't. You stay in this room, and it will be your salvation." But Strom doesn't listen to him, and he ends up dying. So there's that. Saw 6, which I personally really like, and I think a lot of Saw fans see this as one of the high points, which is there is a Saw game going on where this insurance agent basically has to learn the value of human life or whatever. And it's really interesting, and I like it, where he's basically forced to go through the ringer with all of his coworkers, and he has to pick and choose who lives and who dies. And I just watched a video where someone criticized it. It's like, well, this goes completely against the rules of Jigsaw, where uh, he's still killing people, but he's letting the game player pick and choose who lives and dies. And while yes, but also John Kramer's dead at this point. Hoffman's still alive, and Hoffman has a more twisted view of Jigsaw's games and his morality. Geez, that was a loud knuckle pop. But this one is pretty much that, and then Hoffman is now trying to ward off the rest of the FBI agents, which is just funny because the whole point of the last movie was, oh, I just framed Strom. But then the FBI goes, well, we found a dead Strom, and this is stupid. Like, why the heck would we believe that Strom is in on this? Because he's an FBI agent. He's been in D.C. for most of these killings. So, like, that makes zero sense. So, pretty much it's Hoffman trying to throw him off the trail. But then he doesn't, so he kills the uh, the FBI agents once they figure out it's him. Strom's partner, who got shot in the face, also is revealed to still be alive, only to get stabbed in the throat and die. Yeah. That I mean that's pretty much the long and the short of that one. I think it's fun. I like the trap plot line of this one. But yeah, that one was solid. And then saw the final chapter, not good, probably the worst out of them all. And this one is about the final survivors of the Saw legacy, which is Hoffman and a lady I have not mentioned yet because she's largely unimportant until now. She's been in other movies, but she's John Kramer's ex-wife. Apparently she knows that John has been a serial killer, but you don't know you don't know that she knows, I think, until Saw 6. But now is she knows, but not only does she know, she's out to try to either turn in Hoffman or kill Hoffman. Or no, she tries to kill Hoffman in Saw 6. Once again, look, my brain's muddled. She tries to kill Hoffman in Saw 6, so now it's like this giant cat and mouse game between Hoffman and Jill. Both of them trying to kill each other. Because apparently one of John Kramer's last requests before he died, sorry, I just had to answer my phone. Before he died was that Hoffman had to die. I don't know why. He just did. So Hoffman gets locked in a game, in a trap at the end of this one, and it's assumed he's dead. While the other storyline is there's a guy who's been pretending to be a Saw survivor. And he's been parading around this book of how he survived the Saw traps. He goes to a Jigsaw survivor therapy group where you have a bunch of cameos from all the different trap survivors throughout the movies, which is pretty clever, and I like it. And then he's put into a trap where pretty much he has to go through these series of trials that ends with his wife, who was completely innocent of all this, being burned alive. Yeah, that goes completely against John's morality, and I think in this one the trap is set up by Gordon from the first movie, who is revealed to have been there all along as well. The, the Saw movies really rely on trying to convince you that this character has been in on it all along. Which, speaking of which, Jigsaw from 2017 takes place a long time later. Bodies start turning up, and people are convinced a Saw game's going on. So we follow the Saw game as each person dies and the bodies turn up. And this forensics guy is brought in to examine the bodies and try to find John, or try to find Jigsaw and the other players of the game. The issue here, so we have Logan and we have Eleanor, who are our two CSI people, and then we have two detectives, Detective Halloran and Detective Hunt. And it's this massive cat and mouse game where you're trying to figure out which one of the four is the real killer, or if any of the four is the real Jigsaw acolyte. And at the end of the movie, we find out that what we have been watching, the game that we've been watching, is actually John Kramer's first ever Jigsaw trap. And, and, you know, it's like trying to subvert it, like, we see John Kramer, and so they're trying to convince you that John Kramer's still alive, but no, it's just the entire sequence has been a flashback, the entire movie. But we also find out that one of the guys who we thought died early in the trap was actually Logan, our main character. He was a doctor who accidentally switched the dates or the tags on on two different brain scans, thus making it harder for doctors to detect that that John Kramer had brain cancer, and John Kramer got pissed off, put him in a trap, but then something went wrong with Logan. Logan wasn't able to wake up in time and almost died, so John Kramer goes, shoot, well, I'm going to keep him alive because that's on me, but also, he made an honest mistake, he probably shouldn't die for it. Alright, he's trying to still figure out the idea of the game, which is an interesting concept, but not entirely executed well here. But it's revealed that not only was Logan the actual killer this entire movie, but he's been with John since the beginning. He was the first acolyte. This guy we've never heard of is now suddenly the acolyte, the original acolyte, which is a little silly. And the movie as a whole is just super, super silly. But that opening, the opening trap was pretty well done, and really, like, that's an iconic trap of just people with bucket heads on being drugged towards a bunch of spinning blades. That's cool and really intense. And then finally, Spiral, that came out this past weekend. Big spoilers for that. I doubt people care, but this is completely detached. This takes place like 10 years after Jigsaw died. And there's a guy going around putting corrupt cops into Jigsaw traps. And people think it's a Jigsaw copycat, but other people are like, well, Jigsaw's never gone after cops before. So Chris Rock has to track him down. Chris Rock is an upstanding cop who ratted out a corrupt cop years ago. And all the cop department hates him for it. So, kind of timely, corrupt cops and whatnot. But yeah, so it's about this giant investigation as more and more cops are getting kidnapped, putting into saw traps, and Samuel L. Jackson's in it. He's great. There's not a lot to say about it. Pretty much, it turns out that this rookie that Chris Rock got paired with has been the killer all along, which pretty much they try to do a fake out where they go, oh no, he's dead, but they never show him in a trap, but they've shown every other cop in a trap. And it's like, well, clearly there's foul play here. I think that dude's still alive, and it's pretty safe to say he did it. So they kind of overplay their hand a bit there. But it's still an overall fun movie. It's one of the better Saw movies. The traps are just great. Few and far between instead of just a constant threat, which I like, which makes the traps, when they do show up, a lot more impactful. But I mean, overall, really, really solid movie. And yeah, I mean, the Saw franchise is just overall a super solid franchise. It's something you can kind of just sit down, turn your brain off, and enjoy most of them. But what interests me most about Saw and what makes Saw unique, not only is the traps and the gore, but it's the villain. Jigsaw is what makes this entire thing work, even though he's only alive and active in the first three movies. Tobin Bell is in every movie except Saw. But what makes this work is Jigsaw. And what makes Jigsaw interesting, he is unique amongst horror movie villains, at least from what I've seen. He's unique in that he has a method to his madness. If you think of Jason or Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or these big other horror icons, most of them just kind of kill without remorse. They are just Mike Myers. He's evil incarnate. He kills people because that's what he does. Freddy Krueger is a bit of a psychopath who just loves killing people. Like, he relishes in it. And that's why he does what he does. You have Jason Voorhees, who is just a mindless brute who kills people because that's all he really can do. I think there's a little bit of revenge and PTSD thrown in there where he only targets unruly camp counselors and young people because that's who bullied him as a kid. But I mean, that's really if you want to delve into it and stretch it. But with Jigsaw, he has an entire worldview that the movies attempt to explore. He has an entire backstory that each movie tries to develop more and more, some more or less to certain successes. And on one hand, I really love Jigsaw as a villain. He's a very interesting antagonist. On the other hand, the movies don't know how to keep him consistent because, he's established as a guy who's doing this because he got diagnosed with cancer and he recognizes that no one else is valuing his life, and the only time he got to value his life was when he was close to death, and now he's about to die. And there's still people alive who don't recognize the value of their own life or are wasting their own lives. That's an interesting thought process and worldview for an antagonist, especially a horror one, where he specifically targets people who do bad things or are wasting their lives and puts them through near-death experiences that are constructed to teach them a lesson. And so his idea is that this is the ultimate tool of reform to make people better. And that is interesting. Jigsaw is motivated by what he views as a broken world, and how you fix it is by putting people through rigorous, painful testing where they're required to make sacrifices in order to live. So then they recognize the value of their own life and try to live better for it. And to some extent, he's not wrong. I probably shouldn't have phrased it like that. But to a certain extent, he's not wrong. A lot of people don't recognize how far they've fallen or how broken their life is until they hit rock bottom. But that's only with incredibly broken people. There's a guy I met this weekend who was in a very bad drunk. He told me that he gotten to the point where he had almost killed someone. He burned down his house, and if his wife wasn't home, he would have died in the blaze because he was just that drunk and not aware of his surroundings. He got involved with, I think, a fencer. He got in some really deep trouble, and he didn't recognize how bad it was until he hit rock bottom, where he almost killed his family, and that's how he got better. So you see that to a certain point of, yeah, you don't value your life until it's almost you're close, almost close, or so close to it being over. You don't. What's that song lyric? You you don't know what you got until it's gone. There it is. I don't know if that's a song lyric or if that's the same. You don't know what you got until it's gone, and that's John Kramer's whole worldview. That's what he shapes everything he does around. And that makes for a very interesting antagonist, even if it's very unclear why he started doing this. First, it's like because he had cancer, then he had gotten in a car accident. Actually, he had a pregnant wife who's had a miscarriage because of a junkie. All this sorts of stuff. They try to throw in plot twists, and well, Amanda was just some random junkie who picked up. Oh well, now actually, she reformed, and now she's his acolyte. Oh well, actually, she's not his only acolyte. Hoffman was working with him, and Hoffman actually didn't like her, so he rigged a game to kill her. But somehow John knew about it, so he sent a thing to his ex-wife, who then in turn hunts down Hoffman and kills Hoffman, and then she's home free. But also Professor or Dr. Gordon has been on it ever since he escaped. So he's an acolyte of Jigsaw, but actually they're not the original ones. The guy who accidentally swapped labels on brain scans is actually the original acolyte and has been in on it from the very beginning, even though he has done nothing since that first trap until John Kramer's dead and everybody else is dead. It gets very convoluted with that. But I will say, even if it lacks on execution, Saw has the most interesting concepts. I mean, just to run through some of them again. First off, Jigsaw himself, even though he's very inconsistent, it's such an interesting villain to have that specific worldview where it's the phoenix rising from the ashes. You have to burn something down. You have to break someone down in order for them to build themselves back up and be better. You have Saw 2, that entire concept of 8 people being trapped in this house that's been home alone, but you can die from it, and you're slowly figuring out that all these people were arrested by this one kid's father who's trapped in the house with them. And they have to learn to get past it. Saw 3, you have this grieving father who has to take steps through his grief to learn to forgive and let go of the past by being confronted by all the people who either helped put his son's killer away or killed his son. Interesting concept. Saw 4 introduces the idea of a man who will stop at nothing to try to rescue his friends, his colleagues, but he's so one-track minded it hurts the people around him, and he never learns his lesson in the end and dies for it and gets people killed for it. That's an interesting concept. Saw 5 introduces the idea that there have been multiple acolytes and that they have rivalries and they have relationships, and they all view John Kramer Jigsaw as this prophet, almost this rabbi, and they follow him as if this is a cult. Like, that's an interesting idea because I'm sure if Jigsaw existed in real life, he would have followers. He would have people who were like, he would have people who would take this idea to the extreme and go, well, he has a point, let's follow him. But Saw 5 kind of introduces that idea of intermingling in this grander cult. And then, the idea of these were inherently selfish people who had to learn they had to work together with people in order to better themselves, better society, better their own lives. The only issue is it's so hard to do that without it being super cheesy. but I like the ideas. Um, I mean, the whole FBI chasing down Hoffman and Hoffman's on the run. That's a great, fun idea. Him working with the FBI to hunt down the Jigsaw acolyte while he's the Jigsaw acolyte. Great idea. The idea of an insurance executive trying to work his way through a trap where he's learning that it's harder to make these personal decisions about people's lives, where he doesn't see the value in human life as a life insurance exec, and he has to learn the value of picking and choosing who lives and who dies. And then ultimately, I didn't say this earlier, it ultimately ends with the wife and the son of a man he rejected life insurance from, who ultimately died of cancer because of that. He's confronted face to face with them, and the son decides to kill him while the wife just said, like, she can't. That is a great idea. You have saw the final chapter, a group of Jigsaw survivors, almost like a support group. That's an amazing idea. And also a guy who's faking it and has to be confronted with the fact that he's trying to benefit off of people's suffering. That's a great idea. The idea of the whole trap plot line of Jigsaw, of the Jigsaw movie. That's, great idea. Spiral, you have this person inspired by Jigsaw, but with a completely different motivation, completely different worldview of, we have to take down corrupt cops. They're not going to take them down themselves. So I'm going to one by one kill cops with the very same vices that made them corrupt. Like, very, very good ideas. They just kind of make them, most of these movies make them incredibly schlocky and goofy. And that's kind of just general thoughts of Saw. Is just, it's a franchise that has really fun traps, iconic traps. You have in Saw 6, where all these people are on a merry-go-round, they're spinning around, and the insurance executive has to pick 2 of them that will live, and all the other ones will be shot by a shotgun. Merry-go-round will stop at random, shotgun will lower, and he has to press a button to save him. But in order to press the button, he has to press the button, and then drills will drill down into his hand. That's a great trap. Like I said, the buckethead trap from Jigsaw, the bathroom trap from Saw, the trap house from Saw 2. There's a lot of good traps in here. There's a lot of good gore. If you're a gore hound and that's what you look for. These aren't really scary movies per se. Not my favorite horror franchise. I haven't seen a lot, but Scream's always got my heart because I'm more of a fan of the meta, funny, introspective stuff rather than kind of just flashes of gore. And that's kind of what, I wouldn't call them torture porn, but I would say they're gore fests. And if that's something you enjoy, you probably have already seen these. But in all, it's a franchise of good ideas, mostly great gore, fun traps, and at the center of it, that makes it unique and stand out, is a very interesting antagonist who died 3 movies in, and has been alive for a third of the franchise. Who has this worldview that is incredibly interesting and at its core not technically wrong, but he takes it to an extreme, and then he also corrupts it because he's also going, I despise murder. You should not kill people, Detective Hoffman. Even though he kills people. No, I don't. I don't kill people. I just put them into traps and they get to choose whether they live or die. Well, you're still technically killing them. There's that corruption where he despises murderers. He doesn't kill people. He just puts them into traps and lets them kill themselves. Which, I don't know how well that'll hold up in the court of law, but I don't think going, well, you see, officer, I did not kill those people. I simply tied them up and put them on a merry-go-round and allowed a man to make the decision whether or not they lived or died. But you did set up the shotgun and the merry-go-round, didn't you, Mr. Kramer? Well, yeah, but ultimately, the choice was theirs. You know, that's not going to hold up in the court of law, but good try. You know, he's trying to find those legal loopholes, I guess. I don't know. I think that aspect is a little weird, but I think the aspect of I'm going to put people through fire to make them come out better people, and if they don't have that willpower to make it through, then their lives aren't worth living. Their lives are forfeit. That idea is super fascinating, and the fact that John, like, we have a horror antagonist who kills a bunch of people, has gore and all this. He's not a mindless drone. He's not a supernatural monster. He's not some megalomaniac. He's not a psychopath. He's not pure evil. He's a dude who has a very twisted worldview, a very twisted view of right and wrong, of life and death. This very corrupted morality that he sticks to in the philosophical aspects, at least, and that he spreads to his disciples. Like, he literally is pretty much portrayed as a teacher. As the movies go on, this man has led a cult, but this is something he genuinely believes, and this isn't like a scam like certain religions. But this is something he genuinely believes in and that he sticks to. And I think Jigsaw is just such a fascinating antagonist. And I wish they didn't kill him off in the third movie, because let's be honest, Hoffman was not that great. He's just an angry dude who's like, he copied Jigsaw to kill the guy who I think either killed or attacked his sister, and he found that just and right. And Kramer came in and helped try to shape that into the game and his view on things, but Hoffman was more just an extreme justice guy who then, if he got caught, he would just shoot people and kill people. And it's funny how this guy, who ultimately is not that memorable, people don't remember Hoffman unless you've seen the movies and you're super into Saw. But Hoffman he's briefly in Saw 3, or he's briefly in either Saw 1, 2, or Saw 3, so he's in one of those. He's in Saw 4, Saw 5, Saw 6, and Saw the Final Chapter. He's in 5 of these movies as an alive character. John Kramer's in the first 3. Hoffman's in 2 more of these movies. And yet no one quite remembers him because he's just kind of a stereotypical, well, this is just what we call justice. And even though I kill anybody who tries to catch a whiff of if I'm the person doing this, like, he straight up just murdered Strom. But he tries to stick to that code that John gave him. And I think if given to proper and I don't want to say competent, but in the right hands, I think there could be a really good Saw movie out there that is like the first. Like, James Wan did a really good job, but if you could get someone who can present these ideas in a more succinct way, someone maybe like, shoot, I mean, I could see David Fincher. He's done Zodiac, Gone Girl. I think he could do a really good job with a Saw movie, presenting the more of the psychology angle. Kind of do a soft reboot and return to Jigsaw, John Kramer, and fully explore his worldview, his state of mind. I think that would be awesome. A David Fincher directed Saw movie. That's what I want. Make it happen, Hollywood. Make that crap happen. But yeah, I think that's about all I have to say about the Saw movies. We're about hour 10, hour 11, hour 12 into this, which quite honestly I'm surprised. I talked about the Saw movies for about 40 minutes then. So, good on me. Everyone give me a round of applause. But yes, that has been the Cinema Lounge. And I have another segment I'm going to introduce, which we will do at the end of every episode, which will be kind of a two-segment thing that I kind of want to do where I can talk about other movies. So first, it'll be the release radar where I talk about kind of the new movies that have come out the previous weekend, which is now another reason I release these on Mondays. So I have enough time to either go out and watch them or be able to talk about them. And some of you have already seen them, some of you haven't. And then the other one, I will do a weekly recommendation every week where I recommend a movie that I personally really like. Either a movie I've watched for the first time or a movie that I just cannot shut up about that I think you should go watch. So, first off on the release radar, and this is not pre-recorded, so this is me ending every show with it just kind of off the cuff. So release radar, we had Spiral coming out this past weekend, which is the newest book of Saw, newest chapter in the book of Saw. Its premises is a criminal mastermind unleashes a twisted form of justice in Spiral, the terrifying new chapter of the book of Saw. That's from IMDb. I've seen it solid. If you are a gorehound, go watch it. The next three I have not seen. And the release radar, by the way, will be something of, here are the movies that I think are important or of note that are coming out that I'm going to go check out at some point. Or I have. Those Who Wish Me Dead, brought to you by director, writer Taylor Sheridan, who is one of my favorite directors and writers in Hollywood right now. He's done Hell or High Water, Sicario. He created the Yellowstone show, Wind River. Really good properties. He was an actor in Sons of Anarchy for the first 3 seasons. Love him to death. He has a new movie out starring Angelina Jolie and Nicholas Hoult, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, and John Bernthal. A teenage, jeez, a teenage murder witness finds himself pursued by twin assassins in the Montana wilderness with a survival expert tasked with protecting him and the forest fire threatening to consume them all. It's a fine movie. I would say I probably enjoyed Spiral a bit more. I'm a bit disappointed in this one, but if that seems like your type of thing, I'm sure you'll find enough enjoyment. I found enough enjoyment in it. It's just not up to snuff as Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River. Next up, we have Army of the Dead, brought to us by Zack Snyder of Snyderverse fame and 300. And this is something I'm excited to watch. I haven't seen it yet. Following a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas, a group of mercenaries take the ultimate gamble, venturing into the quarantine zone to pull off the greatest heist ever attempted. It is a zombie heist movie, guys. Come on, that's going to be awesome. Next, we have Profile. An undercover British journalist infiltrates the online propaganda channels of the so-called Islamic State, only to be sucked in by her recruiter. This is on my radar because it's getting generally good reviews, but also it seems like it is taking on the style of Unfriended and Searching. I have not seen Unfriended, but Searching is one of my favorite movies in the past couple of years. And this entire movie will be taking place all on a computer screen. And if it's done well, it will be really good. So I'm kind of excited to see this. That has been the weekly radar, and our weekly recommendation here from the Cinema Lounge this week will be the 2002 movie Narc. When the trail goes cold on a murder investigation of a policeman, an undercover narcotics officer is lured back to the force to help solve the case. Starring Ray Liotta and Jason Patric. both of whom do an excellent job in this. Directed by Joe Carnahan, who did The Grey with Liam Neeson, and The A-Team, and also the movie Boss Level that came out this year. It is a fantastic cop drama with two really compelling lead characters with amazing performances in it. Super gritty, super intense. Oh my gosh. Every scene builds upon itself so well. And the final reveal, the reveal of the whole mystery these two are investigating of this murder investigation is so good. They don't ruin either character. Either character has such stringent worldviews that make sense, that make them both compelling and likable. Highly recommend Narc. This is, after seeing it this week, this is a movie I will sing from the freaking hilltops that people need to go watch. It is joined what I'm dubbing the underdog club. Movies that don't get talked about near enough that I think are great. Narc is one of them. Go watch it. Amazon Prime that crap. That has been the Cinema Lounge podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for playing my game. Screw it. I'm gonna do the rest of this in my Jigsaw voice. I don't even know if it's good. Thank you for playing the game. Now, you have a choice. Go, if you're watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button, press the like button, leave us a comment. What did you think about the Saw movies? What are your opinions on them? Also, click that notification bell so you can get notified whenever new episodes are released. Oh, I can't do that anymore. If you are listening on any podcast apps, we have this podcast available anywhere you can listen to podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, anywhere else. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, please rate us a 5-star rating, por favor. Yeah, that has been it. I think that's pretty much everything. I love you all. This has been the Cinema Lounge podcast. Garrett Inman has been your host, and that host is me. I'm Garrett Inman. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I need to stop recording these so late, but not this week, I guess. Love you all. And have a good week. The choice is yours.